Welcome to the Freedom for Eternity channel. This psychological story has been created by Rajeev Vashista to explore something very common in our lives: unnecessary agitation and emotional reactions that slowly begin to control us. Research and everyday observation suggest that nearly 70% of us experience frequent, unwarranted agitation in our daily lives. Sometimes it is anger, sometimes irritation, sometimes silent frustration. It may arise from small incidents, a conversation at home, a delayed message, a disagreement at work, but the emotional storm it creates within us can be far greater than the situation itself. Over time, these reactions become habits, and the more we try to control them forcefully, the more powerful they seem to become. To explore this deeply human struggle, Rajeev Vashista has created a 3-part psychological story series. The story you are about to watch is fictional, but its emotions are very real. The protagonist, Julie, may look like a character in a story, but in truth, Julie could be any one of us. She could be a colleague, a friend, a family member, or perhaps even the reflection we sometimes see in ourselves. Through Julie's journey, we will explore an important psychological insight: why controlling habits often fail, and how real change begins with acceptance. So watch carefully, observe the emotions in the story, and notice whether some of Julie's experiences feel familiar. Please watch till the end to get the maximum benefit from this story. And if this story resonates with you, do support the channel by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing so that more people can benefit from these psychological insights. Now let us begin the story. Part 1: Accepting. The first step towards cure.
So let's start the 3-part series of why controlling habits always fail. This is a story of Julie and her win over her habit of agitation through the power of let go. So let's begin the Part 1: Accepting. The first step towards cure. July 2nd, Julie quietly took the back seat in the conference room. Normally she preferred sitting near the front, engaged, attentive, and ready to contribute. But today was different. Her mood was heavy, like a storm cloud hanging over her thoughts. She hoped the meeting would end quickly. 10 people had been invited to the conference. Only 7 had joined. Julie felt irritation creeping through her veins. It wasn't really about the number of attendees. But the moment she saw the empty spaces on the screen, something inside her tightened. If the meeting had been scheduled later, she could have come late too. But now she had rushed to the office for nothing. Her mind wandered. Suddenly the memory of the morning flashed in her mind. John. Her husband's words echoed again, sharp, careless, irrational. At least that's how Julie remembered them. The argument had been small at first. Something about breakfast being late. Something about her tone. But the conversation had escalated like dry leaves catching fire. Now the heat of that moment returned. Julie felt the familiar sensation spreading through her body, warm, restless, uncomfortable. Her heart beat faster. A strange urge took hold of her. She wanted to run away, or hide somewhere alone. Meanwhile the meeting continued. Smith, the project manager, was explaining something about timelines and deliverables. His voice sounded calm, almost cheerful. But Julie wasn't listening. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, yet her mind was somewhere else, wandering through anger, resentment, and old frustrations. Then suddenly she heard Smith's voice more clearly. So what do you think about it? Julie blinked. For a moment she realized something shocking. She had no idea what Smith had just said. Anyone, guys? Smith asked again, smiling casually. He glanced around the screen. Then his eyes paused on Julie. Julie avoided eye contact, but Smith waited a second longer. That moment felt unbearable. A strange wave of fear and irritation surged inside Julie. Her chest tightened. Something snapped. Before she could stop herself, words exploded out of her mouth. "Why do you always want to speak?" she said sharply. "Are the rest of us sitting here dumb? And why don't you make sure everyone attends? Only 7 people here. You are the worst at everything." The room froze. Silence filled the conference call. Julie herself was stunned by what she had just said. A second later guilt flooded her mind. She quickly stood up and rushed out of the conference room. Her hands trembled as she pulled the door open. In her hurry she pulled too hard. The doorknob snapped loose. In the corridor she almost collided with Alex from the finance department. "Watch where you're going," she shouted angrily. Alex stepped aside, confused. Julie stormed toward the restroom. A janitor was mopping the floor near the entrance. "Can't you clean somewhere else?" she snapped before pushing past him. Her heart pounded. Inside, she looked at herself in the mirror. For a moment she barely recognized the person staring back. So let's come to July 3rd. Julie woke up with a severe headache. Her mind replayed the events of the previous day like a painful movie. The meeting, Smith's shocked face, her angry words. She felt a cold wave of fear. Maybe she had been fired. The thought made her stomach twist. Julie avoided her phone. She had already uninstalled her office mail app the previous evening. Her phone itself was switched off. If there were messages, she didn't want to see them. John noticed her silence at breakfast. "Julie, are you okay?" he asked carefully. Julie's irritation returned instantly. "Why do you care now?" she snapped loudly. John sighed. Without arguing further, he picked up his bag and quietly left the house. Julie sat alone in the kitchen. The silence felt heavy. Then came July 4th. Julie called her sister, Anyus. Anyus was the only person Julie felt she could talk to. After listening patiently, Anyus spoke softly. "Julie, maybe you should think about controlling your anger and your words." The suggestion irritated Julie. "Everyone thinks they know what's wrong with me," she said sharply. Before Anyus could reply, Julie cut the call. Now we move to July 10th. 6 days passed slowly. John had not returned home. Julie had stopped answering calls. The house had become a mess. Dishes piled in the sink, clothes scattered everywhere, curtains half drawn. Julie spent most of the day lying on the couch. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she simply stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, she felt completely alone. Now we move to July 10th. 6 days passed slowly. John had not returned home. Julie had stopped answering calls. The house had become a mess. Dishes piled in the sink, clothes scattered everywhere, curtains half drawn. Julie spent most of the day lying on the couch. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she simply stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, she felt completely alone. Finally we reached July 13th. 2 days later Julie woke up feeling restless. Even after breakfast she felt something building inside her. Her mind was racing. Her body felt tense. It was the same familiar sensation, the one that appeared before every outburst. Her chest tightened. Her thoughts became dark. For the first time Julie did something different. She picked up the phone and called Anyus. When Anyus answered, Julie's voice trembled. "Anyus, I think something is wrong with me." There was a pause. "I want to come out of this situation," Julie said slowly. For Julie the road ahead looked uncertain. Bleak. Full of failures and turbulence. But something had shifted inside her. Anyus listened quietly. Then she said gently, "Don't worry, Julie. Everything will be alright." Anyus knew something important had happened. Julie had taken the most difficult step. She had accepted the problem. And acceptance, Anyus knew, was always the first step toward healing. Now Julie's journey could truly begin. All she needed was patience, perseverance, and the courage to learn how to finally let go.
This psychological story has been created by Rajeev Vashista for the Freedom for Eternity channel to help us reflect on the hidden patterns within our minds. In this first part of Julie's story, we witnessed something very powerful. An agitated mind can slowly begin to control our life. It can affect our career, damage our relationships, and eventually make us feel alone, confused, and emotionally exhausted. Julie's reactions were not planned. They were impulsive, and yet the consequences were very real. This is how emotional habits work. They gradually create distance between us and the people around us. They bring misunderstandings, guilt, and sometimes even isolation. But the biggest challenge in any psychological struggle is not solving the problem. The real challenge is recognizing that something is wrong. Often there may be more than one issue within us: anger, insecurity, fear, impatience, or emotional sensitivity. Many times we try to hide these issues, even from ourselves. Yet the moment we recognize the problem, something important has already begun. Healing has started. Recognition is not easy, because it forces us to admit something uncomfortable. We are not perfect, we all have flaws, and sometimes the suffering we experience in life is connected to our own reactions and habits. But this awareness is not weakness. It is the first step toward transformation. Julie has now taken that difficult step. In part 2, we will see what most of us naturally try to do next. Like many of us, Julie will attempt to control her problem through sheer willpower, trying to suppress anger, force calmness, and push emotions away. But will controlling the habit actually solve it? Or will it create an even deeper struggle within her? Let's discover that in part 2, The Trap of Control. If this story resonated with you, please support the Freedom for Eternity channel created by Rajeev Vashista. Do like, subscribe, comment, and share so that these psychological insights can reach more people. Thank you for watching.